Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description.
A lot of people want us to believe that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to start at quarterback for the 49ers in 2021, John. And it might be because that's what they believe. It might be that that possibility exists. It might be that he's going to get traded on draft day, and we just have to play the game for the next month until he is. You and I talked about this on Friday. We did a video, and we talked about on the podcast why the Niners have to trade Jimmy Garoppolo right now, or not necessarily right this second, but before the season. But the name that keeps coming up is the man that once walked those sidelines, John. Took a lot more heat than Jimmy did in his day. Alex Smith.
I'm looking at Kansas City, the 4 years running up. So they trade for him in 13. So they get him 13, 14, 15, and 16. They drafted Mahomes the year 17, and Alex obviously played that whole year. But in 13, 14, 15, 16, Alex played in 15 games, 16 games, 15 games. I know he might have been hurt in one. I'm pretty sure they had in a couple of those week 16, or 17, nothing to play for, and he sat. He was not missing any time. Like, they were viewing as a guy, they were going to the playoffs, I don't know, every year. And people forget this. They didn't win the division a couple of those years because Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos were in it. And remember, they played him really tight, but they were consistently winning, and he was consistently playing. On top of him being an older player. So when they drafted Mahomes, he was 33, so about 4 years older than Jimmy. But it had a much longer resume of being a starter, the 2 years in San Francisco and then those years for Andy. And Andy, like, listen, I on pretty good authority, I don't think the Niners are that big on the way everything happened this year with Jimmy. About everyone kept coming back from injuries, begging George Kittle on his fucking hands and knees, begging to play. And Kyle was even like, what am I supposed to tell him? Like, I can't play. If you had people like me, like, just throw the season, you know? And Kyle basically is like, no, guys. He came out, I remember saying in the press conference, like, how am I supposed to show to the other guys, this guy's one of our best players, he wants to play, he played. And now, even when they played him right, they kind of picked and choose. They'd bring him out in some moments. But still, like, if they had not played him, you wouldn't have heard a peep from us. We're like, yeah, I get it.
No, we said beforehand they shouldn't play him.
Yeah. Jimmy's up there taking notes, and I think they questioned the whole situation. Business decisions were made. And that was never the case with Andy. And Andy, to this day, loves Alex Smith. Loved, even when he was doing shitty, that was his number one defender. That has never been the case, even when Jimmy was playing with Kyle. If anything, he went out of his way. We did this for a year of like, God, Kyle just won't really give him credit, right? It was like, remember, there were all these moments and Kyle would refuse to do it. Like, I never felt in a weird way like Kyle liked Jimmy that much. I think they had a good working relationship, and then that 2019 season, he could use him toward what he needed. But clearly, I think once he really got him, and maybe it started with the ACL injury, it felt like there was a disconnect a little bit. Is that fair to say? Not in a negative way. Like, it just felt like they're never two peas in a pod. It might just be as simple as Jimmy's not that good.
Look,
you know?
Why did they get? Why is Jimmy there? Because Kyle's had a lifelong love affair with Jimmy? No, Kyle's lifelong love affair is with Kirk Cousins, but he couldn't get Kirk Cousins, and he wanted to get married, and a quarterback fell in his lap, so he took him, and then he took him and went, yeah, it makes sense to pay him, so they did. It's not because he loved him, not because this was Kyle's guy. No one has ever believed that.
They didn't even seek Jimmy out, right? Jimmy called them.
Fell in his lap.
Yeah, fell in his lap.
And I would have taken him too. And I would have paid him too. And I'd be replacing him now as well. So, look, the evidence is right here for us, John. How could we argue about whether or not he loved him last year or whether or not he cared last year? Blah, blah, blah. They moved up to 3. Yeah, and until somebody shows me Penei Sewell on the phone, it's because they're taking a quarterback.
And the difference was
no debate.
That night they traded for Patrick Mahomes. They came out, Alex our starter. And we kind of called BS. They never flinched. And Andy was adamant, and he followed it through because he wasn't lying. Alex was going to start. This is not the case here. I honestly, Guy, I see zero scenario where they head into training camp week 1 and Jimmy Garoppolo's on the team. I can't see it. I do not see there be a quarterback room with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. Every day, you and I go to a training camp practice, the two of them jog out to practice next to each other. I don't fucking see it. I don't care what they're leaking out, and they're going to talk tomorrow, and we'll talk after. I don't care what they say. I think that this player, now I don't know, maybe they trade for Gardner Minshew or whatever. I just don't see, because part of the lightning rod of the Niners situation is like, Jimmy Garoppolo is much more to me of a lightning rod than even Alex was in that individual Kansas City scenario, beside him having the backing of the coach, where on this one it feels a little shakier. Is that fair?
Jimmy is more of a lightning rod?
Well, he's just this polarizing figure.
I don't think there's any
himself.
question. Look, Alex was 33 when they drafted Patrick Mahomes. Jimmy's 29. You don't make contingency plans for 29-year-old quarterbacks if they're the quarterback, because 29 is young. 29 is prime. So you don't go up to 3 to get a guy to replace your 29-year-old quarterback. They drafted Mahomes. Now, they moved up to get him, but they didn't go up to 3. Maybe if they had to have, maybe they would have gone up to 2 to take Patrick Mahomes.
Do you think it would be healthy to have Trey Lance or Justin Fields or Mac Jones around Jimmy Garoppolo?
So, see, now this is where we agree. This is the Alex Smith point. Jimmy's done nothing to prove that he's Alex Smith from that standpoint. Even though I think they should do this, if they draft a quarterback that, like Mahomes, they think that quarterback cannot take us to the playoffs this year.
Remember Mel Kiper.
And that quarterback needs development. Mel Kiper said on this podcast that he thinks Trey Lance is a one-year developmental quarterback. Now, we could debate whether or not you should ever even do that. That guys play right away. So I guess
the guy literally just hasn't played that much. I mean,
we differ. I do see the scenario where Jimmy could be their quarterback. I would not do it, and I don't think you can do it assuming he's your Alex Smith. He is not Alex Smith. I mean, that is disrespectful to Alex Smith, given the circumstance. And that's not even like an Alex overcame the leg injury thing.
I also think it's an unfair, and listen, it's a business. It's not about fair or not fair, but there is like, how would you expect Jimmy to just be a pro? And, it'd be weird.
Well, I think you could make the case. Jimmy was there with Tom. Now, Jimmy was not a first-round pick, but a second-round pick is to draft a quarterback as a second-round pick to be Tom Brady's. That's not nothing if you're Tom Brady.
Highest quarterback Belichick's ever drafted.
So he was there. He saw it. And what did Brady do?
It was nice to him. Took him to Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, balled out is what Brady did.
But again, he's Tom Brady.
I understand, but you could make that case. That he's
Tom
got
Brady
something in him that he hasn't shown yet. Jimmy's not to win any job from anybody before, right? I guess you could argue he had to battle with Jacoby Brissett at some point in time before we thought Jacoby Brissett was Jacoby Brissett. But
did he really? Like, it felt like Bill already was in love with Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm shooting from the hip on that comp.
Here's my ultimate belief why Jimmy has to go. You could convince me, like if I truly dove in and got on the phone, people around there like, listen, Jimmy be fine. He's not going to be some like asshole to him. We don't even need him to like jerk him off every day. We'll handle that. Like propping the guy up and, teach him the offense. That's what McDaniel and Kyle and Wes and all that. We'll handle that. We just want to get Jimmy's value up a little bit. Maybe he gives us a better chance to win this year and implement the kid next year. My issue is ultimately when you look back at all these guys, everyone plays as a rookie now. I would get 20 years ago, 30 years ago, huge transition. I just think it's just all the star quarterbacks right now, the young ones, every single one of them. Mahomes, Watson, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. They started from the jump in this decade. And even the guys that didn't work out, Wentz, Goff, Mariota, Baker.
The guys last year didn't.
Who was the guys last year? Well, Tua had a broken hip, and Herbert started week 2. And it turns out to be, like, we think less of Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, but I don't know if Tua was healthy. Maybe they would have started him from the jump. But once they started playing him, they were yanking him out of the lineup, not because he was getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you agree though that was a unique situation with him coming.
They both were unique. Yeah,
And
but there's
the Charger one, they look worse, or their coach looks worse because of it.
But what if Kyle Shanahan's going, I think this guy's good enough to play right away, but I don't think he's good enough to go to the playoffs. And I think if Jimmy's healthy, he can get me to the playoffs. And if Jimmy gets hurt, well, fine. Then the season blows up anyway. We go with the young guy.
I get it. My issue, though, is ultimately that's back to the Alex thing. One thing that they will tell you, obviously, I've talked to him about it. They've been open. I mean, it's on record a million different places. And Mahomes has talked about it. Alex could not have been any better with just helping the kid out. And part of, I think, Mahomes, the next year when he won the MVP, he thanked Alex for setting him on this path. I think we just think it's Andy and Andy and Mahomes. I think Alex, it was just a big part of a group helping this guy out. I wouldn't even blame Jimmy. I wouldn't fucking talk to him, right? I think there was a huge opportunity for the dynamic to put the kid in a weird situation.
For sure. I would also tell Jimmy, if I'm his agent, and we know who his agent is, Don Yee, I say this is also an opportunity for you because the writing is on the wall here with who the next quarterback of the 49ers is.
I agree, and just be focused. But what are you going to do? Hold the guy's hand?
Not just be focused, but just look at how good it was for Alex Smith's career and Alex's legacy is not something we talk about a lot, but Alex Smith does have a legacy because of what he overcame in San Francisco, the way he handled Kansas City, and the way he came back in Washington. And who knows if there's another chapter.
Now, there is an element that I have not brought up that you kind of touched on, that even a bigger addition to that is Jimmy plays this season, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. Watch. You're just a 10-win team. You go to the playoffs. Even if you lose in the first round or whatever, Jimmy just has a solid season, and maybe you can flip him for a first.
Or a second. I mean, anything. Yeah, maybe you get your first back. But
I think if you're a playoff team and Jimmy has a solid season, he's under contract, yeah, I mean, you're getting a decent pick. Way better than you probably could right now.
I don't think there's any question.
But it could also go the other way. He gets hurt again, and he's worth nothing.
But he gets hurt again, and you're playing the guy you were going to play, and not make the playoffs.
My issue is more with one, he's not Alex Smith, and two, I think it makes a very, very awkward dynamic.
I think you're right. I mean, it's not just Alex. It turns out he's pretty unique. Mahomes is pretty unique, right? The two of them, Patrick Mahomes is a guy.
He might go down as the second best quarterback of all time when it's all said and done.
But I mean, Mahomes, I don't know. We'd have to ask.
You're just saying his personality, yeah.
His personality. He'd been in locker rooms. He'd been around his dad. He'd been in the big leagues, quote unquote, right?
Kind of has this Klay Thompson vibe where you just go with the flow guy. It just
clearly has respect for the other people around him. So who knows? It could be.
I do let's use Josh Allen as an example. And Herbert as an example. Because I've heard one thing about Justin Fields is he's not Mr. Screamer and Yeller, which I was telling a buddy, honestly, I think that's kind of Kyle's role in a weird way. I think with the Saints, I think that's kind of Sean Payton's role, and I think it kind of works well. Now Drew Brees was probably much more assertive, but Sean Payton's there to light your ass up. Kyle is getting in guys on offense when they screw up. So my quarterback could be Justin Herbert. And that was is he ready? Is he ready? Yes! Put the guy in. Now, Justin Herbert would not have much in common with Trey Lance. Trey Lance hasn't played. Even Mac Jones only been a one-year starter. Justin Fields now has played multiple seasons at Ohio State. To me, if it's Justin Fields, you would have to agree. What are we doing? Part of what Josh Allen 3 years later is he got to just be the alpha, whether he was ready for it or not. Sink or swim, kid, and we're going to hold your hand. We're not going to let you sink, but you're eventually going to have to take some movements with your arm and keep your head above water. And sometimes you'll go down, but you'll figure out how to get back up, take another breath, and it'll help you out in years to come. And then with a guy that not everyone, like you said, is Mahomes or whoever is ready to hit the ground running, Herbert. But what if in 3 years, I bet Josh Allen say, that first year taking my lumps, I was so much better off my second year, and then I was able to snowball that into my third year.
So two things.
And you only get the rookie contract for 4 years.
If you draft Justin Fields, or I guess this is how we're going to do the next month, mumble Mac Jones.
Say his name. Say his name
quietly. If you do that I would be surprised if Jimmy stays. If you do Lance, then I could understand it. But I also go back to the year with RG3. I think Kyle Shanahan, one of the reasons I believe in him, is I think he has shown the ability to not insist on all my pegs are square. You give me a round peg, I'm going to shove it in a square hole. We watched what he did with Robert Griffin III. I think he would find a way to to simultaneously develop and try and win with whatever his quarterback is ready to do as a rookie. And then maybe it's the offseason and year 2 where you even try and take another step. Like you said with Josh Allen, these things take time. They don't normally look like Herbert. Herbert's going to have a challenge this year of doing it again. Like there's all these things. So I do think, to me, the RG3 one, you go back and look at that and you say he found a way for that year to get the most. Now, who knows if RG3's healthy and he's his quarterback, what does year 3 look like? I don't know. Maybe it looks very different than year 1 looked. But I do think that would be an argument to let's just see what he can do with a rookie quarterback. He can try. There's no rule that says he can't try and win games, right? One way with a quarterback as a rookie.
They made the playoffs with Robert Griffin.
And then, and he was the rookie of the year. What, they go 9-7 that year?
Maybe 10-6. I mean, they were pretty good.
There's nothing that says the way you play with the guys his rookie year is the way you have to play with him his second year.
I completely agree. But let me say 2 things. I think Robert Griffin's a good example. In a vacuum, healthy Robert Griffin as a rookie was an elite prospect. Like better than Justin Fields. He had elite speed, he had elite arm strength, and he was accurate. Like he was, I know it, looking back now, we all make fun of him. Like he blocks people on Twitter. I think he blocked me. Now we watched him play this year. Like, what's that? That year in a vacuum, his skills, he's 6'3", he could fucking fly. He had a hose. He was he was really good. Then he got hurt and he was never the same. But one thing we found out after he got hurt, kind of a me selfish guy. Not a great guy. But coming out, it was like this high-level guy from Baylor. People loved him. This is where, back to what I was saying about the risk. When you're acquiring people, and this is back to even the Alex thing, like you never truly know. Like you use the example of Tom Brady and Jimmy. Like it's so easy to think these things, and then you put these people in these situations, and it's like, whoa, this is a lot different than we thought, right?
Yeah.
Like I know how Kyle is. I know for a fact Kyle, once he gets on the treadmill of a football season, the guy can game plan with anybody. He can have his team ready with anybody. He can do all. It's just the pieces. Like if he has a talented defense, they'll kick ass. If his quarterback can just stay erect and stay healthy, like he'll figure it out. But like that quarterback has, like, say one thing for Jimmy when he was playing in 19, like he was pretty tough. His toughness was elite. Like he would hang in there and get rattled and fucking just blasted. And it was like, God, Jimmy's underrated part about his 2019. Like Jimmy showed some heart and toughness. He's getting his ass kicked at times. And that's part of why you need a mobile quarterback because, McGlinchey, misses pass protection can be a little hit or miss. We feel good about dude on the left, hopefully, because he's just got all this money. He's an 8-time Pro Bowler. The right side, luckily, if you're a right-handed quarterback and there aren't any lefties, you can see the guy coming, but the guy's coming often, so you got to be able to take off.
Use check.
Right?
Use check.
Yeah, you got to do some 360 moves. And, hey, George, we need you to stay in for an extra 2 seconds here. But the thing is, like, you never truly know. That's what makes this thing so special. The Chiefs would tell you.
Yeah.
For as great as and much as we loved him, once we got in, he exceeded our expectations. Well, what does that mean? You still have expectations, right? There's an unknown to it all. They felt very, very comfortable with Alex. I don't care what they'll say tomorrow and what will be the message moving forward. I don't believe them for a second. They feel that comfortable with Jimmy around the guy that we've all agreed now they should have done this, but like put their life savings into this startup, which they think could be Uber, but they've done it. And if you're going to do that, do you want the other thing kind of lingering? You probably don't. It's on that basis of just thinking, because like you said, they're ultimately making this move for this guy to be a decade plus all-star, right?
They're moving
and be the face of the franchise.
I think that's well said. I'll finish my last comment to summarize what you just summarized it well. They're moving off of a 29-year-old quarterback who's under contract. Who does that?
Who got him
when
to the
you
Super
love
Bowl?
Yeah. You don't do that if you love the guy.